usually come in too early with these transitions, and I'm sure that you have something else that you want to say.
No,
But
that's about it.
I was going to say that, someone that didn't really have much of it, or actually did have a decision, but maybe didn't have as much of a decision as implied, is Chuck Pagano, who he's retiring. Now, was it a forced retirement? Meh. Maybe.
Probably.
But at the same time, he walked away on his own. He's walking out of the game. And, he had himself quite a career, not only as a coordinator, but as a head coach for the Indianapolis Colts, where he had a decent amount of success. Now, at the same time, it leaves the Bears with an ability to go out and change a little bit of a route, which I think, both of us are kind of happy to see, some change coming to that defense. Neither of us were ever really particularly happy with what Pagano was doing scheme-wise as a defensive coordinator, and we felt that the potential of the personnel was a lot higher than he was necessarily extracting out of them. We've seen players like Eddie Jackson perform a lot better in other systems. Of course, Khalil Mack's numbers have really never quite gotten to where they were under Vic Fangio. As they, never got quite to what they were under Vic Fangio when Chuck Pagano was defensive coordinator. So, there's some serious, performance declines possibly there. Obviously I'm not shitting on Mack there. We both, will say that Khalil Mack is one of the top, if not the top defensive players, but, he's subject to a lot of double teams, a lot of things that happen in the game that impact those numbers. But at the same time,
Pace came out today and said he played the entire season through a somewhat major injury.
Right.
So that's impressive too.
He's a warrior. Truly. He's one of the best to ever play the game. I think that's a firm fact. Now, with that being said, the next defensive coordinator is walking in with at least what right now we don't know what's going to happen with offseason. There might be a couple big names that are going to move out of this team as cap hits, especially depending on what the Bears decide to do with that quarterback position. Could definitely have an impact on that. But at the same time, certainly there's going to be some big names still there when the next defensive coordinator walks in. Loads of potential. So, they got a decision to make there. And finally, at least we have one vacancy that we can kind of, go over and see, where the Bears can improve.
Absolutely. And I think we will get a little bit more clarity. Obviously we're going to get more clarity once the Super Bowl, after the Super Bowl, and we know, every single, coordinator is able to actually be hired and all different types of things. But I have I think that, the guys that we put together, they're good guys. These are good guys to consider. Hopefully we will make a move on it. Reese, you want to give us your first guy?
Yeah, so my first defensive coordinator, possible, is Ed Donatel, who actually is currently the defensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos, and he's serving under Vic Fangio currently. Of course, not sure if he would take that move out of his system, if the Bears move would be considered an upgrade to him, but a possible name. And, obviously what jumps out to me is he's someone that has familiar with a system that I think a lot of people have liked. There's a lot of fan recognition there with, Vic Fangio. I think a lot of people had a very positive impression. And I think it gives that ability to kind of get back to a little bit more, not necessarily aggressive defense, but maybe a little more creative. I think that, Chuck Pagano liked to sit in a few base packages and would play things a little bit more conservative at times. Was happy kind of playing that bend but don't break role, whereas, a kind of more Vic Fangio-based system wants to go out there and kind of force the offense to adapt and change to you, which I think was one of the major differences we saw between Fangio and Pagano. I think that bringing back those kind of elements to this defense could be something that would make the defense even scarier than they currently are, and hopefully back to as great as that 2018 defense was.
Yeah, I would be happy with Donatel, of course, because it is a lateral move. It could be, in fact, blocked by Denver. So that's something that's definitely on the table there. But I also like the idea of just kind of getting back to that Vic Fangio system with maybe a new head in place. That worked with it worked very well with the Rams. And, Brandon Staley over there has done a fantastic job running one of the top defenses in the NFL with, a defense that while they do have guys like Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, they also have a lot of holes on that defense. I think people don't necessarily talk about that much. So getting a lot more out of players that necessarily, aren't the best players, he does a good job with it. So, going with a guy like that, 2 other names, internal hires that I want to bring up, and this is going to be kind of one person for me. I know we're doing 6 people, but I guess this is kind of 7 people. Jay Rodgers or Sean Desai on the Bears currently. That's our D-line coach and our DB coach. For Jay, he's been with us for a long time with Fangio, and then was carried over with Pagano. And then with Desai in particular, he's someone who's actually tried to get lured by Fangio to Denver, and the Bears ended up blocking that move because they liked him so much. So I'd be fine with going in with an internal hire as long as that is a hire that's not from Chuck Pagano's system. I don't want to see another iteration of his system. I'd rather see a return to Fangio's system and the way he kind of ran things.
Yeah, and I guess that brings me to my second name of Ted Monachino, who actually I decided to bring him up early because he is kind of that further iteration of Pagano's system, someone that worked with Pagano extensively throughout his career. And, he's currently serving as the linebackers coach and was the senior assistant or one of the top assistants to Pagano in that defense. Not particularly a move that I would like to see happen. It's definitely something that's possible. I do think that the upper management, the top brass would like to see more out of this defense, but I do think that a move like this wouldn't necessarily be taken as not something they're putting completely out of consideration. But, once again, it'd be something, very similar to what we've seen with Pagano. Of course, it would have his own little flavor with it, but I think it's definitely someone that is at least being discussed for that position.
Another name that I like is Chris Richard, who a lot of people don't really, know, but he was kind of getting some head coaching hype last year when he was a Cowboys DBs coach. I think he did a lot of other stuff with that defense as well. But that was a good Cowboys defense. They had some really good, they played really well against, some specific teams, had guys like Robert Quinn play really well. He's a really young coach, and he ended up actually not coaching this season. I don't know if that was on his own choice, just because of COVID, and obviously the previous coaching regime of the Cowboys was completely changed. They did an entire coaching staff change, but he's someone that I'd be interested in kind of taking over the helm.
Yeah, and another move that could potentially be blocked is the current Bills, but also former 85 Bear and Super Bowl champion Leslie Frazier, who you might also know as a divisional foe, as he was the head coach for the Vikings for many years. Just kind of from a defensive standpoint, I think that those Vikings teams that the Bears face, usually did have pretty tough defenses. Really like to utilize the edge rush, although I do believe back in those times he was still running a 4-3. I'm not sure if that's something that he still employs, but definitely would be in the minority of the league if he did that. I think it's a bit of a reach, but sometimes the defensive coordinator, the assistant positions, they can be odd names, odd hires they weren't necessarily expecting. So you kind of got to throw that kind of wild card pick in there sometimes.
The last person I want to kind of throw in is another kind of wild card. And it is going to be I'm really interested. I think that they will end up going the internal hire route this time from, I honestly do believe that it's probably going to come in the form of either Jay Rodgers or Sean Desai. But I think that another intriguing name is Gerald Alexander. He's the Dolphins defensive backs coach currently. I mean, they've done such a fantastic job with that defense.
Amazing. Yeah.
With guys, they have good DBs. They spend a lot of money on their DBs, but I mean, Xavier Howard has had just such an insane season, 10 interceptions, which is crazy. And then, that defense overall has been just really good for a team that, before, this Brian Flores coaching staff came in, they weren't considered anything special at all, really. So yeah, someone from his tree, I would not mind at all. And I also wouldn't mind going the younger route. Both Gerald Alexander and Chris Richards are younger guys. But really, I'm open-minded to see maybe they go, I know some people are saying the current Falcons interim head coach, Raheem Morris, if I believe that's his name, Raheem Morris. People like him, I don't know, because that Falcons defense, hasn't been great as of late, obviously. But
meh. They've been meh.
Yeah, it could. I mean, they also have not done a good job drafting at all. So, hey, they made Mitchell Trubisky look awful.
That's about the only person.
That's our bar. That's our bar.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, I think that's gonna be about it, man. Hopefully, we keep getting a lot more news. I'm truthfully really intrigued by how this Watson thing plays out. He followed a couple Chicago weathermen, kind of corresponding to his old tweet back in 2013 where he said he likes the Chicago weather. Maybe he wants to play in West Coast scheme. He likes Eric Bieniemy, who else was a former Chiefs assistant. Matt Nagy. I mean, stuff's just coming together. It's coming together. 2021 starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears, Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. I mean, it does sound pretty good. I will say that I think one of the most far-reaching theories that I've heard of who he's going to go to is that Watson would be traded to the Chiefs, where someone insisted it'd be good if he learned for a couple of years under Mahomes.
No
to which that person got utterly flamed in the comments for such a suggestion. But yeah, I think the Bears definitely have at least better odds than the Chiefs, so we'll ride out on that high note.
I mean, I want to say, like, how realistic do you think it is that he gets traded? Like, that he is traded?
I'd say solid 75% chance.
Really? Like,
yes.
That's the one thing that is my biggest concern, because I truthfully believe that the Bears would be more willing to, like, give anything than any other team. And I also believe that, like, people want to connect the Dolphins as one team, but, like, as much as, like, even if they're dumb enough to trade Watson, like, at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't think they're dumb enough to send him to another AFC team. I think it's going to either be the Bears or the 49ers. I'd be shocked if it was anybody else. I don't think it's going to be the Patriots. I don't think it's going to be anybody. I don't think it's going to be the Steelers, like some people are saying. I'm almost certain that it's going to be an NFC team. It's certainly not going to be the Colts, their division rivals, if you guys want a little knowledge on that. But I see the Bears, because I think they're the most desperate to do so, truthfully.
Yeah, they certainly have to be one of the most front runners, and I think the desperation factor is bigger than it's ever been before. That's for sure.
But I'm down at like 30%. I think there's like a 30% chance he does get traded, because he does have a lot of power, and it's clear that he wants to be traded now, because he was pictured with Andre Johnson at the Rockets game, and Andre Johnson was tweeting out about how Deshaun needs to hold out, and on the picture that Andre Johnson posted, he was saying, am I saying the right fucking player, or am I confusing?
I mean, I assume so. You're talking about the former Texans wide receiver Andre Johnson?
I believe so.
Okay.
I believe so. Here, let me put this in. Just I'll cut it out if not. But I believe I'm saying the right player. But yeah, he was picked, and it was like his caption was "Stand your ground." So it literally cannot be any clearer. And I'm sure that, with Tyrann Mathieu tweeting out about, like, oh, if I were the Bears or the 49ers or the Saints, I'd be all in on this. Like, these guys talk. It's not like, usually when there's like this much smoke, there's like a substantial fire. Like, such little stuff gets leaked to the media about drama anyways, and we like to think. But like, when it's getting this heated, I mean, it can be pretty bad. The only thing I could see the Texans maybe doing that would calm them down is hiring Eric Bieniemy and like conceding that with him. But I mean, still, I don't know.
We'll just have to see. That's all
I'm excited to cover it. it's the off season now, so we don't really do our game stuff, but it's going to be some playoffs. Hopefully the Packers lose to the Rams. And then, going into the off season, we're going to have to, really get some exciting news, hopefully.
And we'll be the ones here to cover it, so you can always come back to us.
We'll work on some more ASMR, like the beer opening for the last episode. We'll work on some more ASMR for you guys. Put our superb quality mics to the test to really enlighten your day. But thank you guys so much. Especially if you got into this point, you are, really statistically, you are one of our best fans. So thank you guys so much. We appreciate that. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. I'm sure you guys have already. We do a lot of content there. Reese, I'm about to upload one of his videos talking about the offensive progression and regression and just offensive transformation throughout the past couple of years and how it's still kind of an issue. So that'll be on YouTube coming up on the day that this will be posted. And then, we're going to try to do a bunch of creative topics and talk about what the Bears should do and kind of, end the depression that the 2020 season was. So thank you guys so much, and bear down.
Bear down.
Hey guys, like our video, subscribe, and check out our bi-weekly podcast on Apple Podcasts. Thanks.